This is Richie Incognito of the Buffalo Bills. You're listening to Locked On Bills, presented by Cover One.
Welcome back, guys. This is Erik Turner, and I'm bringing you Locked On Bills, presented by Cover One. Today, I'm joined by John, and the Bills, they lost to the New England Patriots. I mean, it's not really surprising, considering how much they've owned us over the years. So, John, what were your initial thoughts from this game? Again, we lost 23-3.
Well, I mean, you're never going to beat the Patriots scoring 3 points. Everyone knows that. And the main thing is you have to capitalize on all your opportunities with them. You can't give any possessions away. And you got to stop them when you can and keep them out the field. And I thought, the first drive, we did a good job of, grinding the clock, keeping Brady on the sidelines, driving the ball down the field, and then obviously through that horrendous interception there on the goal line, which, really took, I think, the wind out of the sails and kind of set the tone, for the rest of the game. Because that drive really, you figure 7 minutes off the clock without getting anything, and that's the exact opposite of what you want to do. So yeah, it was a rough go at it. I mean, a lot of things to, a lot of stuff I saw today that was, not so promising.
Yeah, that first drive was really frustrating because, we always talk about Dennison and his play calling, his play design, and how he doesn't really have creativity, but he's shown over the last few weeks that he has a little creativity within his play script, within that first, 15 to 25 plays that they script to start a game. And, like you said, they came out, had a really good first drive. They ran some on the first third down and short. They ran some little wildcat call with Joe Webb at quarterback, a little inverted veer. And, gained the first down, got a couple yards on that. They ran, the patented crack toss with Dawkins leading wide that had a little that's like your favorite run play this year, isn't it?
It is, because it seems like it, really springs them loose, and we're able to see some of that athleticism from, Dawkins and get Shady out in space.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really nice drive. They ran an RPO, run pass option to Zay Jones, where Zay was hit on the slant against Gilmore, I believe. So they showed a little creativity and they showed it, a lot in the first half. Again, they ran that look with Joe Webb, and I'm sure that's something that the Patriots didn't really prepare for. It's almost reminiscent of a few years ago when the Dolphins busted it out and ran all over them with I think it was Ronnie Brown, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it was a very creative first drive, man. And they burned clock, and, Tyrod did something that he hasn't really done much, and that's turn it over. And, it only makes sense. It's only fitting that the guy that he throws the interception to is Erik Lee, a guy that was on our practice squad just a couple weeks ago.
Why does that always happen to the Bills? And it seems like it's always with the Patriots too. I mean, a guy that's on your practice squad gets a pick and like 5 tackles, a sack. I mean, give me a break. It's just it's embarrassing after a while. It's like, why are we always that guy?
Yeah.
And if I'm in that locker room, man, and if I'm that coaching staff, it's like, guys, let's go. Let's not get bullied anymore. And I don't know. That's what we keep getting, is bullied by the Patriots. And they, it's good. When I was watching this game, I noticed there's something I've really noticed before, but the Patriots literally will do anything to get a W. I mean, whether it's overreacting on any type of potential call, and sometimes the ref sees the antics and they'll throw a flag, and they get the little stuff like that, and it's just the way they're coached. And kudos to them for covering every single angle that you could get, and that's why they're so successful year in and year out, is because they have a great coaching staff.
Yeah, you're right. They'll do anything to win, and I know a lot of guys in the chat box immediately went to the Gronk play, man. So let's get it out of the way. Let's talk about it, because I just saw a tweet from Aaron Williams, who basically said that, it's not surprising that no one really came to Trey White's defense on that play. So what are your thoughts on that Gronk play?
Well, it was super dirty. I mean, obviously, he lined him up and just dropped a shoulder into him, and when a guy's 270 pounds dropping a shoulder into your back or wherever happened, I mean, certainly you're going to feel that. And in my opinion, that's suspendable in my opinion. I don't know. It was because, I mean, he had the option. He thought about that, Erik.
Yeah.
That was premeditated. Look at, I mean, so, and that's malicious. And look at that. I mean, this pile drives his head right into the ground, man. I mean, if that's not or a hefty fine, and I think a suspension is warranted there, then I don't know what is in this league anymore. Ratings are down in this league is because every week there's no consistency with the way things are called. So that's another thing. It's like you have to be consistent. This is malicious and this is dirty after the play, and you hurt the guy. I mean, who knows if he's even going to play next week? Who's, one of our better players. It's Bush League.
It really is Bush League. I mean, you see him, and you know what? He was frustrated all game. I rewatched some of the game where Hyde was covering him and he caught the ball. Gronk caught the ball, and yeah, I mean that's what you got to do with Gronk. You got to get physical with him. You got to hold him. You got to push the envelope, just like the Patriots have always done. But this is beyond the envelope. This is beyond. This is across the line and unnecessary. He had time, like you said. This is premeditated, and someone mentioned it on Twitter. You see that big brace on his hand. He takes it right to the back of Trey White's head. So if the NFL is worried about concussions and worried about brain injuries and traumatic injuries like that, I mean, this is definitely suspendable. I mean, I could see 2 games, and he'll probably plead down to 1, but something has to be done here with this. And post game, they asked him about it, and he apologized to Trey White, and that's all fine and dandy. But it doesn't take back that now Trey White's in concussion protocol. And as you said, he's really right now one of our better players overall. I mean, he's up for Defensive Rookie of the Year, no doubt. And, he had a decent game. He gets the pick there. And Rob said he was just frustrated. Well, I don't care. That's still malicious.
Oh, dude, 100%. I mean, he lines him up, and then just drops an elbow on him like this is the WCW. It's I think Rob forgot where he was at for a second, and realized he wasn't in the ring. But yeah, it's Bush League. I think if these other guys can get suspended and things like that, then obviously I think, and like you said, the NFL is so worried about concussions and brain injuries and things like that. There's your number one example of stuff you want to get out the league. And that wasn't even during the middle of a play. That was after the whistle. The guy's laying out of bounds. He's ready to get back up. And then he dropped an elbow on him at 275 pounds, lining him up. All right, yeah. Roger, this is the time to show where, to use your head here. This is what you're trying to get out the game. And, we'll see what happens. I'm sure I'll get fined and that'll be the end of it, but we'll see.
Yes, the guys in the chat box are saying that the commentators on the Sunday Night Football pregame show, which is, I believe, the Eagles and Seahawks, is actually they're saying that he should be suspended too. So I agree. And before we move on, I do want to take a second to mention our sponsors that's for this show, and that's mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid. The Eagles and Seahawks are on tonight. Go to mybookie.ag. Throw a couple bucks down on the game, and you can actually make some good cash, and they pay out in 48 hours. So definitely go get over to their website. You can access it from your cell phone. It's got a really clean site. So get to mybookie.ag and take a look at that game tonight. I'm sure it's worth wagering on. But you guys are right. I mean, I think there's a pretty good percentage of people that will say he should be suspended. I think that it's very warranted in this case, and I don't care what the cause was. Yeah, you were getting held, but it wasn't called. And you know what? It's just that's not how you take out your frustration. And before this game, and I'm not going to say I don't like Gronk anymore, because I do really like Gronk and what he brings to the game, the energy and that passion. But he redirected that passion and that competitiveness in the wrong form on that play.
Absolutely. And we'll see, come Tuesday or Wednesday when the league hands out, discipline. And but yeah, like in my opinion, it sounds like some of the rest of the guys out there are in agreement that he should probably be suspended. And I'm not being biased as a Bills fan. Obviously, I think is take that out of the equation.
Totally.
That's a dirty play, and he needs to be punished for that for sure, because that's not something that you can if you throw a little $9,000 fine at him, what's the chances he does that again? There's a chance he could do that again. But if you throw a game check and take away a good player in the middle of a playoff run, he's gonna think about that the next time, and so I think a suspension is definitely warranted.
And just to kind of conclude on the whole Gronkowski incident, I don't think he has a history. That's what's going to be so interesting about this. That history plays into, a flag being thrown on that, a guy being ejected. Someone on Twitter said if that was Jerry Hughes, guess what? He would have been ejected. So I think that history does play into it. So that'll be really interesting. But in the end, it's malicious. It's a blow to the head to a defenseless guy on the ground, and it was premeditated. I mean, everything's there for him to be suspended. So I think we can all agree on that. But so the chat box, of course, after the Gronk incident is talking about Tyrod Taylor and this offense. And so, John, where are you at on this offense? Obviously, we're looking at some of the stats right now, and the one that jumps out to you is the 85 total yards passing by the Buffalo Bills offense at home versus the New England Patriots.
I mean, it's the same. It's like Groundhog Day, Eric. The same thing every week, just about. I mean, it really is. I mean, how much did that knee injury play a role in the his lack of production today? I'm sure it had a little bit to do with it, but we're seeing this week in and week out these kind of numbers, and I just he's a type of player that really, really needs to get into a rhythm early and often, and once it falls apart, it just falls apart fast, and I just don't understand how, like, Brady had a bad day in some regards. It still put up 250 plus yards passing.
Like it was nothing, yeah.
We struggle to put up 200 yards passing.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't win in the NFL putting up less than 200 yards passing week in and week out. It's just impossible. I mean, I don't care what team you are, what kind of defense you have, what kind of run game. To win consistently, you're not going to be able to win with 180 yards passing, or in this case, 85 yards passing, or what have you. We're a D League team when it comes to our passing game.
Oh, it's embarrassing. It's gotten to the point. It's super embarrassing. I mean, according to Pro Football Focus, he had 18 attempts. He was 9 for 18, 65 yards, and 1 interception. No touchdowns for Tyrod Taylor. Obviously, that interception proved to be. I mean, that's points off the board. At the very least, you're getting 3 there, and kicking it off deep again. But that was critical. Again, we talked about it on that first drive, but you got to give kudos to the defense in the first half, because even though the offense was moving the ball a little bit, they weren't getting points or whatever, but the defense, I thought they did a really good job, and that the Bills had a really good game plan going into this game. And from what I saw, they kept Brady off balance. I mean, the difference between the first and second half, though, I thought at the beginning of the third half, I thought they became a little too aggressive, because in the first half, and we'll look at some of these stats from the first half, I mean, we held them 2 for 6 on third down. And a lot of those third downs were third and longs. And that's where you need to keep the Patriots, because that's when we can be exotic in coverages. We can be exotic up front, and we can try to disguise and confuse Brady. And they did a really good job of that in the first half.
Yeah, they got after him, and he had some hits and some sacks on him, and a couple balls in the dirt. He threw, and you saw the frustration coming off the field after one of those drives early in the game, because he knew that guys were open and he was missing them.
Yeah.
Point, simple as plain. And so, and that's a direct result from the Bills having a good game plan. They put Brady in a position where he was uncomfortable there for a little bit, and they did a great job the first half. I mean, they let him 9 points, which I think was the lowest amount that the Patriots have had all season in the first half. But again, you're not going to beat the Patriots scoring 3 points, Eric.
No.
So no matter how good your defense, our defense played good enough to stay competitive throughout that game. But, we just couldn't get anything going. I mean, I thought Shady, for the most part, I mean, he was taking that ball off and he was hitting it.
Yeah, he looked good. I mean, he finished the game with a decent stat line, but when that first half, I just thought the game plan was so good because, yeah, we gave up 130 yards rushing. But as they mentioned in the broadcast, we were giving up runs. We weren't giving up chunk plays. And that really, forced New England when they got into the red zone. They needed to score touchdowns and they weren't. And that was nice to see from a defensive perspective, because if you're holding them to field goals, at least that plays into our game plan where we can still run the ball. We can still take a shot here or there with Tyrod, but he can do what he does with his legs, and it keeps all options open. Obviously, we've struggled in the first quarter and the first halves this entire season. And when you get down like we had gotten versus the San Diego's and the New Orleans, you're taken completely out of your game plan. Well, this game, the defensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier and McDermott, those guys on that staff, came in with a good game plan. And you know what? Okay, we gave up some runs. We didn't want to give up the runs. I'm not saying they wanted to concede runs, but if you eliminate those deep shots and force them to run it because there's a light box and Brady checks into these light boxes where they want to run it, that's good for us because it helps our offense, which obviously even today it didn't really help because, again, you mentioned 3 points either way. It's not good enough.
No, it's not. And, at the end of the day, Eric, I mean, against Brady, obviously he's going to get his points. He's probably going to put up 21 minimum, the Patriots are, you would think, even on a bad day.
Yeah.
And like I said, as good as your defense plays, what can you do when your offense is just – and I think what really the big part of it was that first interception on that next drive and then them missing on that Joe Webb play action down the seam to Cadet. I thought that was the play they probably worked on all week.
Oh, that was the big explosive play. Yes.
That was the play that, you figure if we score on that first drive and then come back and get a big gainer on that play – that's a different game right there. And but that's a what if scenario, and I'm sure the Patriots can say that about a handful of plays as well. But I think that probably was the difference offensively.
Yeah, that was, and again, that package where they brought in Joe Webb and they used the jet motion, the jet action. They used some pin and pull runs, that inverted veer. It was a nice little package. That creativity that we haven't really seen from Dennison. He used that. We saw some triple option where he gave it to McCoy up the middle and both him and Cadet were on the field. We saw some of that creativity, but you're right, man. That play was the explosive play that we needed because we don't have those receivers anymore that can stretch the field. So they have to pick and choose when they take that deep shot. And it almost has to be a perfect situation. And guess what? They got the look. They got that vertical concept off the jet motion. And it was just slightly off, man. That's the play. That's a play that a lot of teams are running nowadays, and kind of digress here, but it's a play that a lot of coordinators stole from Matt Canada, who was offense coordinator with Nate Peterman last year at Pitt, and now he's over at LSU. But it's a really big play, and I think you're right, man. That play they practiced all week, and it was just inches off. But I honestly thought Joe Webb did a pretty good job in this game coming as a runner and as on that pass. I even thought wasn't a bad pass, really, just a couple inches off.
Yeah, it was about a football off. If it was a size of a football in, maybe I think that's a reception. And I agree with you. I thought Webb held his own. He picked up some nice yards with his legs. He looked confident throwing the ball when he had the opportunity. But when it mattered the most, they didn't execute. So,
it's a perfect call too, because I'm looking at the play-by-play now, John, and it was 2nd and 10 from the New England 37. So you're in that 40-yard range where coaches like to take that shot, man. And of course, first down, you get no gain with the run. So you run a little jet motion, you fake it, and you get that running back out of the backfield, Cadet, going down the seam. And man, it was just so close. And again, I mentioned this on Twitter. It was one of those plays that It was obviously drawn up really nice, and they needed that explosive play because we just cannot get explosive plays this year, which it sucks because Tyrod Taylor, that's what he thrived on the last couple of years, and now we're not even getting that. And so that's why you're ending up with the stat lines that he is.
Right. I mean, I think coming into this week, over the last 3 or 4, I think it was 3 games or 4 games, we've had 3 plays over 25 yards.
Yeah. That's not surprising at all, man.
It's tough to, I mean, you look at the stat lines, when you got 65, 85, 64 yards passing, probably not too many big plays. I mean, Jesus, you're seeing, Alex Smith throw, 65-yard touchdown pass. And that's our stat line for the game.
Yeah.
Something's got to give with that at some point. It's like, and then Peterman came in and, again, receivers were dropping balls, and I don't want to get off topic too much, but, just the quarterback position in general is just, it's not good right now. It's in a bad state. And obviously with Tyrod getting injured, he was obviously our best, option to win some games here. We'll see how that pans out, but it could have just got ugly with him going down for the, if he's out any extended time.
Yeah, I believe I read that he's telling his inner family and friends that he's going to be okay, that he possibly avoided a serious injury. It looked to me almost like it would just the way he bent, it would have been his inner knee, which is like almost like because I blew up my MCL my senior year, and it's only a few weeks. You're only out for a few weeks, but it almost looked like that, where all your pressure's on the inside of your knee, and that pops that ligament out. But it sounds like he's okay. But, I mean, now it leaves the question with the offense struggling in the passing game. And Peterman came in and he did all right. He threw some nice balls, but he threw some really bad ones too. And I think he played like Nathan Peterman plays. He's very hot sometimes, through some pinpoint passes. But then there are just times where he wants to throw with some velocity, and he's just off target.
Yep. And, and the receivers didn't do any it didn't help him out much today in his short, time out there, but there were some drop passes, and and that's the thing. It's he needs more reps with. It seems like it's a similar situation the last few years where we have not been able to keep some of the same receivers on the field for an extended amount of time to gain rapport with whoever the quarterback is.
I like your point there, John. I think that. I think that's more evident this year than prior years, because I said we lack explosive plays. We lack explosive players at the wide receiver position, and there are a couple good possession receivers, guys, that can win with either contested catches, big guys. We have the Benjamin, now he's hurt, but we don't have those guys that can separate with speed, separate with their change of direction, in and out of breaks. That burst out of that, that break. We don't have those guys anymore. And you saw it hurt us this game, regardless of what quarterback was in, John. I went back and watched it. Both quarterbacks saw a lot of press man, and the Patriots just came up in these receivers' faces and pressed them, disrupted them in their early release of their drive phase and their routes. And it disrupted any type of timing that either Peterman or Taylor wanted to throw with. And they made plays on the ball. I mean, and your boy Gilmore, John. I mean, we made your boy Gilmore look really good at the end of this game, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I mean, he,
doesn't that kill you? That really irritates me, John. I don't know why.
It does. It's every year though. It's what's funny though. If there's it happens every year. It's a guy leaves our team, he'll go to another team we played. He has the best game of his career against us.
It's so Billsy, right?
Oh, Billsy, it's annoying, man. It's annoying. But no, I mean, they went to Zay 2 or 3 times. He had an opportunity a couple times to catch a ball. Mm-hmm. I thought at the one on the right side there, the fade, he had 2 hands on it. I think he needs to catch that, pluck it, and secure it a little better. Yeah. But Gilmore got his hands in there and rolled it out. But we need to be better at at getting separation and designing plays where we can get our receivers in the best positions. When's the last time you seen a bubble screen? When's the last time, you don't see these plays, because I don't understand why, you're not seeing, some of the short stuff with, some of our athletic offensive linemen pulling out in front of these guys. I mean, when's the last time we ran a screenplay, that?
Well, we run, but we're not consistent with it. And to me,
Right.
the lack of effective screen game over the last 3 years, it's got to tell you something, because we've had how many different offensive coordinators, and we've pretty much had the same, the same receivers 2 out of 3 years, same quarterback, same offensive line. It's got to tell you something. And if we're not effective with running screens, we get a couple here and there, primarily with tight end screens. We seem to be good at tight end screens when we do run them. But screen game altogether, it seems like we struggle. And to me, that says something with how many coordinators we've had. I think that says more about the personnel than really the coaching and scheming of those screens. Wouldn't you say that, John?
Yeah. I mean, the quarterback plays a big role in screens, as a lot of people may not think, but they got to hold on to that ball, and they kind of got to almost take a shot right before they release that ball, just to draw that rush in. And I don't know if our quarterbacks are doing it. I don't know if our linemen are getting out off their blocks fast enough, or what have you. But whether it's scheme design or practicing it or just personnel, it's just not computing. And I think we're at a disadvantage, because you see a lot of these teams that are successful, they live off those and eat off those every week. And they're big gainers, man, and that's something we need. We're just, our offense to me is right now, and it sucks because last year our offense was something we could hang our hat on.
Yeah,
it's regressed so much. I mean, we were averaging up to 25 points a game last year.
Yeah, we were top 10 in scoring, I think.
Games. I mean, we've had a couple games this year we haven't even scored more than 3 points.
Yeah, it's ugly, man. It's quite embarrassing as an offense. This offense is embarrassing, whether you want to put it on the quarterback, you want to put it on the play calling. I'd say all of the above, because there has not been any consistency in the run game, in the pass game, anywhere. So there's really nothing you can hang your hat on. And we talk about identity pretty much every week, John. And when you don't have an identity anymore, you don't have that running game to get you in those third and short situations. You don't have those receivers that can separate, when Tyrod breaks the pocket or extends a play. It's just, you don't have an identity. You're not the team. You're not a team. And so that has really killed us. And at least I see the defense. We may not have premier talent on the defense yet, but I like what I see on the back end. We talk about Gaines, you talk about Poyer, Hyde, and White. I do think there are some really good building blocks there as far as coverage goes. Obviously, we need to mix in some linebacker and D-line talent, but I think that there's something identity-wise in the secondary that we can hang our hat on, at least on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think we might have been texting back and forth a couple weeks ago saying, what do we actually do well that we can hang our hats on? And there was a point there where, we couldn't think of anything,
Yeah.
Obviously, if I had to pick something, it would be our secondary. I think absolutely that's made a huge improvement over last year, and that's something that looks like is kind of locked up for the next few years. We'll see what happens with Gaines, but yeah. I mean, we don't run the ball well consistently. We don't stop the run well consistently. We don't pass the ball well at all. I mean, we don't in-game coaching that great, in my opinion, that great right now. I mean, and I give McDermott a slight pass because, yes, he's a rookie coach, and we still do have to keep that in consideration. I mean, this is his first go-around making those executive-type decisions. I mean, what the hell are you doing challenging that play with Brady? I mean, I think he forgot that, he was watched too much college football the day before. I mean, what the hell are you challenging there? I mean, that was so egregious. I was embarrassed for him.
Yeah, I almost was like, okay, hold on. So who's he referring to up in the booth? Who's telling him the challenges?
Right.
I mean,
that
what
guy's
it came,
fired.
it's probably the same guy that Rex had, dude. Honestly. But that play came up, and then in the second half when we got that bad spot on third down where Brady got up to the line, ran that play. A lot of people were moaning about maybe challenging that. If you challenge the Brady play from the first half, why not challenge that? Fourth, it should have been fourth and short, but they eventually just came out, ran a quick play with 15 seconds left on the play clock and got 9 yards on it. So it's almost like, okay, we could have challenged it, but honestly, it's so quick. This happens so quick, guys, right? I mean, it's something that like we see it through the broadcast and we're like, oh, come on, we see that, we saw a replay, let's go, but it happens fast. So you're right, John.
But there has to be somebody. If the coach doesn't have enough, doesn't have a vantage point or whatever the case is, where he can't make that call, within a lot of time before the next play snap, then there needs to be somebody that can and should have enough time to be able to see that and let the coach know. Hey,
but what I'm saying is if they're not showing it on the broadcast, they're not, it's just bang, bang. I mean, again, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate or anything like that, but I just think it didn't matter because guess what? The next play they ran it. It would have been 4th and inches, and Brady would have done a QB sneak, or they run Burkhead and got 12 yards instead of 9. What it comes down to me, and John, you know me, the way I think when it comes to football, and the way I think is it didn't matter because on that next play they couldn't stop it anyways.
Well, I mean, you think about it though. If they challenge that play, if they say they get the flag out and they challenge that. That gives you time both teams time to think about it, right? Think about what their next move is. So, but when you're getting quick counted and they're stepping the ball with 15, 20 seconds left on the play clock before you're even lined up, you're going to gouge them for 9 yards, But if you got time to line up, the ball's, placed down there, you have at least a shot. That's what you need. You need at least a shot, an opportunity to make up for that. If it's 4th and inches, I understand that the odds are against us, but there's still a small percentage where we might stop that play and turn that ball back over. And
I don't think that way though, John. I don't think that's true at all. Honestly, I mean, for the offense to come up there and run the ball, they're on a quick count just as much as the defense is, and they executed that play. And that's what it comes down to me. It always comes down to execution. I don't think calling a challenge there, I don't think it's going to stop anything, and it really doesn't matter because
if the Patriots had enough, foresight or whatever you want to call it to get up to the line and snap it, because they obviously knew it was short or close enough where that could be challenged, then why the hell didn't we, think about that to get the flag out? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
no, totally.
They obviously knew what they were doing, Eric. So, kudos to them for being just an outstanding situational football team, and that goes to our, inexperience in that regard. So, but yeah, to your point, I'm not surprised that they, that they did, they quit counting them. I'm not surprised that they picked up 9 yards on that very next play.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We're getting gashed. They're probably gonna gash us anyway. But let's just rewind just a little bit, John, because again, I thought coming out of the half, I thought the Bills were a little too aggressive, and the play that sticks out, and I think pretty much when we lost the game and lost control of the game, or any type of control of this game, was that third down where 3rd and long, and the Bills blitz 6 guys. They bring 6 guys, and Gronk's left open down the seam, and gets the first down, and of course they end up going down there and whatnot and scoring. But that play to me really stood out as the turning point in this game, because that's when they got Gronk going. I mean, I think he had 50 out of 80 yards on that drive alone, 50 out of 70 yards on that drive.
Yeah, they went back to him on that drive, and that was the drive because we had him. I mean, that was that first 2-3 plays of that drive. Our defense was looking good, right? And then obviously you let that big play up to the Gronk, and he drags a couple guys down the field with him. And yeah, you're right. I think you're right. It probably was a turning point of the game. And we weren't, able to recover. But how do you still? I mean, you're able to cover the guy, and that's the thing. Like, you were doing something well that worked the first half.
Sure.
Like, you don't need to make adjustments. You're making, the Patriots need to make adjustments, and it seemed like, now you're bringing an extra guy more than you needed to. You want to probably bring 3 or 4 at the max against him, and probably drop more coverage. I mean, it seemed like they were getting a little bit of pressure with just a 4-man blitz at times, especially up the middle. So, it's tough to say now, hindsight 2020, but I think they probably should have settled down a little bit there and played more of their defense they were playing in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, they came out, and that's, we come out of the half, it's 9-3, and they did a really good job on the defensive side of the Bills in the first half, especially when it came, Gronk. But in the second half, they come out on the first and 3rd and 11. They get him in a 3rd and 11, and they bring a blitz, and it looked like Jerry Hughes and Preston Brown were supposed to drop, and Jerry, he faked rushed, so he bluff rushed the tackle so that Hyde and I forget the other defender that was rushing could get a lane to get in there to Brady. They had split backs in the backfield, so they were expecting their running backs to chip then release. So they knew that we were blitzing. So it was just a bad play because Hughes is not going to drop into the seam deep enough after bluff blitzing to undercut Gronk there. And Gronk knew it immediately. He alerted, turned, showed his numbers, and Brady hit him. And I thought that was just not the way to go about it coming out of the half. You don't blitz. You got him a 3rd and long. Show that odd front, that 3-3-5 we've been showing in the first half, and going back to the Chiefs game. That was not the time to blitz, in my opinion. And again, I thought that was really the turning point, the point where Brady took over. He started diagnosing all of our coverages a lot better, getting rid of the ball when he needed to when we were bringing blitzes, and that was the start of the avalanche, in my opinion, man.
No, I agree. And like you said, 50 yards out of the 70 on that went through the Gronk, and he ended up with 140 plus yards receiving. And going into the game, everyone knows that's probably your the number one guy you want to keep an eye on. And look, I mean, what was it, 9 catches for 140 yards?
Yeah, it was 9. He was targeted 11 times, caught 9 for 147. He had a 16.3 yard average, and his longest was 30. So he, man, and I thought honestly coming in that our safeties, Poyer and Hyde, would match up decently, or at least disrupt him enough where he wouldn't go off big. But in the second half, he took over. I mean, he had the really big catch over Trey White down the sideline. I thought Trey was in great position to make a play, but Gronk just,
snatched it.
No. So before we John, before we move on, I do want to get a shout out to our partners, Pro Football Focus. Guys, I know a bunch of you guys are in the chat box, and it's the chat box is definitely hot right now. When we're done with this podcast, get over to iTunes, leave a review in iTunes, give us a good rating, and leave your Twitter handle in there, because every week Pro Football Focus is going to give away a PFF Edge membership. That's about a $40 membership that gives you access to different fantasy stats and some of the stats we use here on this show. So get over to iTunes and leave your Twitter handle in a review. So but yeah, Gronk, back to Gronk, man. He was impressive. He really took over in that second half, and that play versus Trey White, man. Again, I love White, and I thought that he, so far this season, he's been one of our best players, probably top 3 player, obviously right now for the Bills. And he just always seems to be in the right position, always plays with that awareness of a veteran, right, John?
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, everyone sees it every week for the most part from him. Is he came in, and like you said, he's playing like a veteran, He's rangy, he's long, he's physical, he seems to be in the right position most times. Like you said, on that Gronk catch down the sideline, I mean, obviously he had his hands on that ball. It just got a little out-muscled there. And but yeah, I mean, he won 2 games for us, basically, the Atlanta and the Chiefs game.
Yeah.
Or at least sealed those games for us. And, being a rookie, I think he certainly has put himself in the conversation to be up for Defensive Rookie of the Year, in my opinion.
Yeah. What about Milano? Milano should have had a pick too, huh?
Yeah, he I think the ball maybe got on him a little hotter than.
A little hot, yeah.
And, Yeah, he didn't really have a good grasp of his catch. He wasn't ready to receive that ball. But I mean, he made a play, and that's what we've talked about. That Erik, Milano's, he may not be the north south type of run stopper type of guy. He's better laterally, but he can play in space. It seems like, and he's been known to get his hands on some balls and. He's Johnny on the spot a lot of times, which, there's something to be said for guys like that. They put themselves in position to make plays, and then when they're in position to make plays, they capitalize, and typically he's good for that. But the main thing I wanted to bring up was, how about that dive, that belly flop from your boy Kyle Williams, though, on that almost pick deflection? Did you happen to catch it?
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm not surprised that he goes 110% to try to get that ball, man. That was awesome, honestly.
10 yards away from him, right? It hits, but I love it. I love his competitiveness. I love that he looked like a flying pig through the air. But, Kyle, man, that play right there just said to me, man, maybe that guy's not done yet. Maybe he's got a little bit more left in the tank, but that goes out to his competitiveness and how much he wants to win, and he's a competitor, week in and week out, and if and whenever that day is that he hangs him up, that's going to be a sad day here in Buffalo because he brings something to this team that you can't necessarily replace and
or teach for that matter, yeah.
Or teach, and it's tough to it's tough to find guys like that.
Yeah.
So the longer we can keep that guy around, the better, and hopefully he's he can keep his health in check and stick around as long as he's able to keep playing.
Yeah, he played 62% of the snaps, almost 63%. Versus New England as of right now per Pro Football Focus. So they had a pretty good rotation. I saw Coleman in there on a lot more of the run type sets. And I thought he played all right. Adolphus Washington had a day, currently sitting with 4 stops, obviously had that sack with some really nice hand usage where I think he dropped Tooney to the ground and sacked Tom Brady. I thought Washington had a really good game. With his partial snaps, it looks like he had about 36 snaps, 18 versus run, 18 versus the pass. So as a pass rusher, I'm sorry. So I thought
Can you show the folks on the screen here what exactly the red and the green signifies, just in case they're not exactly familiar with these particular statistics?
So basically right now, this is fluid. This is they Pro Football Focus grades 2 to 3 times. They have 2 to 3 different people look at their grades, look at the film and then grade. So the green, what you're seeing here, these 2.5s, these 1.5s, for example, Tre'Davious White overall is right now at a 2.5. That's just a raw grade. So then they put that on a spectrum, and it comes out to be a grade of 1 to 100. So it'll come out to eventually equal something on a scale of 100. But right now, this is the raw grading. So when you see this green, obviously that's a good sign. And when you see the red, that's a bad sign. And again, it's one of those things. Grading to me, I don't want to get too much on of a tangent, but the grading is kind of sketchy. It's not something I really look to because the guy made 12 tackles overall in the game, Micah Hyde, on 70 snaps. And he had a negative 2.0 versus the run. How do we know that from a broadcast angle? How do we know that even from the all-22 angle? We don't know their assignments. So grading is definitely a gray area when it comes to Pro Football Focus, but it's something that you use as part of evaluation because, NFL teams use this. And again, there are partners Pro Football Focus is. So, it's something we use as a baseline. But of course, me, man, as soon as the all-22 drops on Monday night, I'm watching that. So right now, top 3 players, according to Pro Football Focus grading right now is Tre'Davious White, Adolphus Washington, Cedric Thornton, and Kyle Williams. And we mentioned Kyle Williams, John. I want to go back to him because I thought he had a really good game as a pass rusher. I thought him and the whole right side when Jerry Hughes, they were running some really nice twists and stunts that were catching Brady's eye and making him happy for, especially in the first half. And they did a really good job. Even rushing 3, they were getting pressure and forcing Brady to feel uncomfortable in the pocket. And I thought that was very noticeable, especially in the first half.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I meant by like 3-4 guys, were getting maybe not home, but they were getting some pressure. So, to bring those 5-6 guys, I thought maybe was unnecessary, especially against Brady, because he'll eat that. He eats blitzes up, right? And
yeah.
But no, to Kyle, I mean, he looked good. I mean, he had a sack, I believe, and he was around the ball a lot, as far as with pressure on the quarterback. So, I like to see that because his obviously jump off the ball is second to none. I mean, he gets off the ball pretty quick, and I'd like to see him slicing more. He use him maybe in that role instead of maybe anchoring down. I don't know how much of that he's been doing, but he looks good. I mean, he's 34, 35 years old. He's still making plays. And like I said, he's a heart and soul of the team, and guys need to learn from him. There's guys on this team. There was guys. I mean, look at Marcel. I mean, that was a perfect player to have next to you to grow and to be the best, because he has the physical skills that maybe Kyle doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's the thing. He wasn't able to live up to them here in Buffalo. But you want to see guys take something away from a guy like Kyle, because he won't be here forever.
Yeah, now he got to have guys like that around, right? I mean, it's mandatory when you're trying to build a team, when you're a new regime, you're a new coaching staff coming in. There's a reason why McDermott, gets teary-eyed when he talks about Kyle Williams, because he knows how important the game is to him, and he plays it right, and he wants more guys. If he could have a whole roster of Kyle Williams and his heart, he would take it tomorrow. So, I mean, Kyle Williams he's a class act. And I thought, one of the questions we're getting in the chat box right now is, why has our run game decreased dramatically? So, I mean, we're kind of switching gears, but I'll stay with the defensive side first. When it comes to run defense, I thought the Patriots, again, did a really good job, like the Saints did and other teams before them, with using motion and jet motion, those fake sweeps to really catch the eye of our linebackers. And it put our linebackers in a couple in bad run fits again this week, on those jet sweeps, John. And look, I mean, they gashed us again.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing 2 guys in the same hole, week in and week out. And again, I don't know all their assignments, I mean, you can figure it out looking at the coach's film, but, just from the broadcast angles, I mean, you're seeing guys, 2 guys in the same hole, and obviously the back's going in the other one, the open hole. And at some point, gap integrity has to be you're not going to win in the running defense without gap integrity. We don't have the studs up front to take on, to take double teams on and things like that anymore. So it's man on man. You have to stand your ground. You have to be disciplined. And, like you said, those jet sweeps and the motions and the different, play action type stuff is really pulling these linebackers away from their spots, and they're taking advantage of those open areas. And, until we fix that, we're going to continue to get gashed. I mean, Deion Lewis had 90-plus yards. Rex Burke had 70-plus yards. There's 160-plus yards just from those 2 guys. And we all know that, New England uses 5 running backs a game, so I'm sure they're probably close to 200 yards rushing when it's all said and done. So you're not going to win like that. You're not going to win giving up 200-plus yards rushing and only throwing the ball for 85 yards.
Yeah, I mean, the Pats finished with 35 carries for 191 yards, a 5.5-yard average, 99 yards after contact. That, to me, obviously tackling. Yeah, it says a lot. And that one play that I think you may be referring to, John, I think it was the Burkhead touchdown, or maybe it was. I know Milano it looked like Milano shot the wrong gap, and Brown shot the same gap as him, and Burkhead took it off the defense's right side for a big gain. I know that was one play, and there was jet motion on that. So it's something that they did better last week versus the Chiefs. There was a lot more discipline in the run game and the run fits, but it seemed like this week when you're having Brandon Cooks with his speed run those jet sweeps and jet motion, it seemed like it caught their eye a little more this week versus New England. But, I mean, New England can throw so much stuff at you that you're going to lose some discipline, and it looked like the Bills did. And we talked about Washington and how good a game he had, up front, but you still saw a lot of these, double teams on defensive tackles blowing right up into the linebackers and just blowing up the ball and establishing the line of scrimmage on our side of the line. And it's something that we're going to have to address. I don't think it's something we can fix, week to week. Yeah, I think that's something you address in the draft and offseason. So, because your linebackers are getting pushed. I mean, the defensive line's getting pushed right into the linebackers, 5 yards, 4.5 yards deep. There's not much you can do scheme wise to stop that. That just, you need beef up front.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the best linebackers in the world, but if they're not playing free, they're no good. So we need to free up these linebackers and let them run a little bit because like you said, they're double teaming our D tackles and then getting right on to that next level, and and that's why they're gashing us week in and week out. For 150 plus yards on the ground, man, it's demoralizing.
Yeah.
And you're giving up that in this game, honestly, it didn't even seem like they ran the ball that well against us when you watch the game kind of just as it played out. But then when you look at the box score, you're like, Jesus, they got 191 yards on us, because it wasn't like the Saints game where they were just, every
24 play drive. Yeah, exactly.
24 play in a row, running the ball down your throat. That, I still can't get over that one. But, and you're going against Tom, and you actually kind of tempered Tom a little bit this week, and you still lost by 20 points, or whatever the final score ended up being. And, it's our offense, Erik. Our defense can only do so much because, if you're playing with a lead as an offense, your game plan's different. You can run pretty much whatever you want, and you're going to run the ball. But, if you need to score, you're going to have to pass more, which plays into the defense's favor. And there's only so long you can hold up against a team that's carrying a lead week in and week out. So if we don't have a lead in a game and we consistently struggle on offense, we're going to see these same results week in and week out because we don't have the team to come back. Once the score was, I believe it was 17-3 or maybe 23. I was like, how are we going to score? And there was plenty of time left. There's maybe a quarter and maybe some change. How are we going to score 3 scores?
Yeah.
And then not score any? It's just not happening.
No. And once we get behind, that's it. Honestly, you get over, 7-10 points. There's no way we come back from that. We'll take a couple of questions before we get off here. Quick hitters, John, and then we'll hit these real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Why don't the Bills run those web packages with Tyrod? What are your thoughts on that? I have a couple. I have my 2 cents on that.
It's a good question. First that comes to mind is they don't want to put him in the positions to take those hits. I mean, anything that's designed for him is, to kind of keep him out of, harm's way, and anything he picks up with his legs is usually a broken play. So, you're not going to see Tyrod running up the middle too much. But, I mean, other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, my 2 cents on that is that inverted veer is where you're faking it wide to the running back and the quarterback is running up the middle. You don't want Tyrod running up the middle. Don't get me wrong, he's as elusive as a quarterback as there is. But I'd rather have 6'4", I believe he's 6'3", 6'4", Joe Webb, taking those hits, putting his shoulder down, and he's willing to do that for the team. So I had no problem with that. Again, I gave a thumbs up to Dennison for even calling and creating that package, first of all. So I don't want Tyrod running that. Now, if it's a zone read or, a triple option where you get him on a perimeter, different story, but you don't want to run it through the thick of the defense. Let's see. So another question has to do with the run game. Again, why has the run game decreased dramatically? Try to keep it short here, John. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I don't think they're sticking to the run as much as they need to. I think they need to, if they get a big play, keep it going. Maybe hurry up to the line of scrimmage. Let's get it going. But, they'll get a good play, and they'll step away from it, pass it 3 times in a row. So I don't think they're sticking with the run game enough, especially after having some success with it. I don't think they're sticking with it as long as they need to, throughout the game.
No, that's a good point. And, I think that it's a few different things. I don't think it's one factor. I think it's the techniques they're teaching. I think it's the actual concepts that they're trying to run. I do think that Dennison did incorporate more of what we did better last year. But what it comes down to is they're not running, they're not designing plays with Tyrod Taylor out of the gun. When we ran that 21 personnel look out of the pistol, when we ran those triple option looks last year, it was just something kind of like this Joe Webb patch that the defense has to prepare for. And when you have a dangerous, 2 dangerous threats in Tyrod Taylor with the ball in his hand and LaShawn McCoy in the backfield, it's very difficult to defend. And it's something that has to be worked on. And it tests the discipline of the defense, kind of like how our defense has been tested in the last couple of weeks. So I think there's a lot of things that go into it. And another thing is the personnel up front, the offensive line, with what Dennison has traditionally been running. It's pretty clear that it doesn't work with this line, and there's some good talent up there, but it doesn't mesh well with what Dennison wants to do. I think long-term, if he is here long-term, that's a whole nother story. But no, last question, John, before I wrap this up. Okay. If Tyrod is healthy, who are you rolling with next week? Nathan Peterman, Tyrod Taylor, or Joe Webb?
Yeah. I mean, well, if Tyrod's healthy, we'll be home against the Colts, right? And that's the game, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm rolling with Tyrod if he's healthy. If he's mobile, because only way if Tyrod's immobile, but he can sit in the back and throw it. No, thank you. I need because you saw the few plays today, especially the one where he stepped out of bounds. That's what he gives you, Tyrod. He gives you that element of, because there was a play where he was totally spied. I believe it was 52 on the defense for New England. He had him, and he just shook him out of his shoes, went around the outside, and picked up the first down and then some. So, but if he's not healthy, as far as his legs are concerned, because that's his number one attribute, then I would roll with Joe Webb.
I knew you were gonna say that. No, I kind of agree with you, John. I mean, it's hard because when you saw Tyrod get carted off like that, it's hard to watch, because as much as you want him to be a better quarterback and you criticize him week to week on the things he doesn't do, there are a lot of things that I like about Tyrod Taylor. He's a likable guy, on and off the field, and the organization knows that, and that's why they brought him back. But when it comes down to this offense, it's just been embarrassing. So if he's healthy, I think they still have to roll with him, but I think this will be his last game. I think it'll be his last shot, but I don't want to get too far ahead of it, because I mean, who knows if he's getting carted off, maybe it wasn't a serious injury, but it might be something that would keep him out at least a week or two. So he may miss his boat. He may miss his opportunity. Peterman could come in, or Joe Webb could come in and really just seal his fate in Buffalo. And that's something we're going to have to pay attention to during the week. And that's something obviously we're going to cover at Locked On Bills and Cover One. So with that, you guys, this show has been brought to you by mybookie.ag. Again, go to their website. It's very clean, sophisticated. You can access it on your mobile. Whatever you drop as far as the deposit goes, they're going to match it up to 100% if you use the code Locked On. All right, so get to mybookie.ag. It's a good site for online betting. And I mean, you got a game tonight, you got a game tomorrow. Obviously, it's a good spot to go ahead and test your money and win. You can get your money within 48 hours. So on behalf of Locked On Bills, presented by Cover One, I am Erik Turner signing off with John Vincent. Have a good day, guys.